Each new season of iRacing brings with it thrills, excitements, and of course, new machinery. And 2022 Season 2 was no exception, with seeing the Brazilian stock cars added to the roster of iRacing machinery. And what a better way to start off the season in these new machines than at the home of the Brazilian Grand Prix Interlagos. Hello, my name is DJ Clark, and I'm joined here in the booth by Connery Maddock here to be able to watch the first of what will be 12 rounds of these Brazilian stock cars ripping around some of the greatest tracks in the country, or in the world rather. There you can see the full schedule: the Red Bull Ring, Spa, Hockenheim, Bathurst, Road America, Knock Hill, all the way down to a return at Interlagos to finish out the season. These cars are absolutely fantastic to drive, a lot of fun, but as we've been hearing, not a lot of changes to be made in them, so a lot of this is going to come down to driver skill. And Connery, I for one am very excited to see what this series is going to offer up.
Yeah, I'm incredibly excited as well. Hello, everyone. It's me again, back on one of these Friday night primetime broadcasts, and I gotta say, I'm pretty excited to see what these cars have to offer here in this one. Of course, you know, at least from my part of the world, not many people know that this series even runs in the real world, and is very, very popular indeed in Brazil, and there's lots of famous Brazilian Formula One drivers that have taken part in this, including the likes of Rubens Barrichello. So certainly a very premiere series in the real world, and it's good to see it represented now on iRacing, especially for the Brazilian fan base who are quite active.
Indeed it is. And the format for today's race, well, it's pretty simple. We have a 2-lap qualifying where drivers are allowed to go out in a solo qualifying session, set their best time, and that'll grid us up for a 30-minute sprint race here around Interlagos. Currently watching those drivers setting in the fastest times right now. It looks like Lopez, Martin, and Campos, your top 3 right now. A big gap at the top with Ade Coba Lopez holding about a 1.1 second advantage, but very close for second, third, and fourth. Only about a half second separating those 3 positions. Waiting for the majority of the field to set their time down, but I have a feeling once we get racing, this is going to be pretty fierce, as we're not seeing a whole lot of gaps on the board.
Yeah, we are not. Apart from Jacobo Lopez, starting to walk away with things at the very front, at least with these initial laps here. But remember, we've got half the field yet to qualify here, DJ. Of course, Dylan Freckleton, we just saw him come across the line to complete his initial lap here. And, he'll get another opportunity, of course, by the time this session is done. But a surprisingly few amount of cars able to get their first laps in the bag here in this situation. Just adds that little bit more pressure towards the end of the session where you start to panic and you're just hoping to at least get one lap in no matter what the lap time is. But as we see Sergio Berger heading his way towards the top of the order, the number 3 car, just 6/10, rather rounding it up the right way, 7/10 of a second away from Lopez.
Yeah, just starting to claw that gap in on Lopez ever so slightly there. I also saw Tateyama be able to put in a position for P8. Good enough for that. Looks like Kalen Martin is going to be done for the day. He will do no better than 4th place. Here is Helder Vincas Vieira as he makes his way around in the number 2 machine. Now remember, this is an official race, so those numbers that you see with the drivers, those are not preference numbers. That indicates just how high of an I rating they have. So Vieira here, certainly a driver to watch out for in the number 2, and to the surprise of nobody, Lopez is the number 1 machine right now, but Vieira has not yet been able to put a decent time down yet. Currently one of those drivers that is unable to do it, and one of the reasons for that, well, it can be fairly easy to pick up an off track here around this twisting Interlagos circuit. Just run the car a little bit wide and get that dreaded 0x.
Yeah, it is, and of course, in iRacing, no matter what instant point, even if it is a 0x, for example, it's still going to invalidate your lap time. So, you do want to be clear of any sort of instance here, and, well, it seems like we're starting to see yet more lap times be set, but of course, the reason why we're on board with Helder Vincas Vieira here, because he is the number 2 car, so technically he is the 2nd highest rated driver in this entire session at about 4,900 I rating, and I think we all wish that we could get that high in terms of I rating, but as we see Vincas Vieira head his way up across the line now, it is a 140.3 to beat, and well, with a time like that, let's see if it's valid. That should be all position, but no, not quite, as Vieira 4 thousandths of a second off of Lopez's time. Whoa.
Oh my goodness, consider the gauntlet throw down there for Lopez. This is going to be very tight between the two of them. Here is another driver, though, that we have not yet been able to set a time down. Rodriguez currently running wide, a little bit wide there coming out of the junction. You can carry the car a little bit further onto that outside line, but it's not necessarily advised as much as possible during the race, as you can get a little bit of a pickup there. Coming through now, as we said, unable to set a time here at this point. That's going to be a 140.7. That'll be good enough for 5th place, and I believe he'll have a little bit more time to maybe try to get them done, but not a whole lot of drivers here left to be able to set a time down. Here is Stefan Schlacker, one of our sometimes commentators in that bright pink machine, as he's going to bring the car around, seeing if he can improve right now on a P8. Having a little bit of fun across the line. I don't think he's going to improve.
Yeah, not improving in that instance, and so, well, we've only got 18 seconds left of the session remaining, and of course, because this is a lone qualifying session, they will not be able to complete their lap, so that's going to be about it as far as the qualifying session is concerned here, DJ. Very, very competitive at the top, 4 thousandths of a second, separating the top 2 drivers. How about that?
Indeed, absolutely incredible. And let's run you through that grid position right now as we get ready to take to the grid. It is going to be Jacobo Lopez lining up in pole position, followed by Helder Vincas Vieira in P2. Those will be your starting rows there. Sergio Berger and Dylan Freckleton will make up row 2 behind them, with Fernando Rodriguez and Kalen Martin in P6. P7 will be Bruno Campos, followed by Stefan Schlacker, with Guillermo Morelos in P9 and Charles Aaron Lenin in P10. Vitor Tateyama will be 11th, followed by Leonis Roman. They're lining up in P12. Behind them, it's going to be Julian Lanas and Marty Novak. Matt Beard will be 15th, followed by Augustin Cancelo, with Ricardo Luis Priera in 17th and Mario Marco in 18th. 19th will be David Lopez, bringing up the back of the field. It will be a rolling start out here, Connery, for these 19 drivers. This is the top split. We were able to get a split there. And I've got to ask, what are you looking for here in the opening laps to really help figure out this pecking order as we go along?
Well, in preparation for this, I did have a look back and see how these guys run in the real world in these cars. And I gotta say, it's very much like touring car racing. Let's just say that. It's going to be bumper barging, it's going to be door banging. So not all that much different from last season if you're tuning into RaceSpotTV Friday primetime. So it's going to be a lot of forceful moves here and there. It just seems to be how these cars race. Whether or not that these drivers will be able to get through unscathed is certainly a very different issue. But I think there's going to be a lot of excitement here.
I have to agree with you. And yeah, that bumping and banging, the argy-bargy, let us call it, is going to be on full display. I think another thing that I'm going to be watching for is there are a couple of drivers that look to be a little bit out of position here. Mario Marco is the 7th best driver, as according to iRacing. He's starting all the way down in 18th position. That's going to be somebody to watch out for just a little bit. But for the most part, we're seeing a lot of these drivers qualify exactly where their iRating would dictate. So I think that means that we're going to be in for a very, very good race and some tight battles between some of the best across the board.
Yeah, I think so too. This is the potential to be a very, very intriguing race. Of course, I haven't seen at least a very high-level race, the strength of field race of these cars in iRacing, so that's a little bit of an unknown to us, but certainly the unknowns can be very, very exciting. As you see someone just completely bailing out of the situation there. What's happened to Dylan Freckleton? Dylan Freckleton has taken the tow back to pit lane, potentially. Drama on the start already.
That may be a hardware issue. That may just be a situation where he didn't feel as comfortable as he thought he did in the car. We'll have to see if we can figure out exactly what happened there for him, but not really sure. But here they come as they work their way by the Subidostos boxes past that area. Now, this is going to be crucial to get a nice big draft here when you are up to speed and lead into the heavy braking zone down into the Senna S's. That's going to be one of the best overtaking opportunities on this track. But right now, drivers are not worried about the draft. Drivers are focused in on Lopez, waiting for him to take the flag. And there goes the flag. We are racing in Interlagos with Lopez having a good lead at the start. Vieira going to try to poke his nose to the inside a little bit, going down into the Senna S's. He's going to have a little bit of a line. Lopez running a little bit wide there, but he will have the preferred line. That Schlacker getting a little bit offline there in the back. Look out for Berger, looking very excited as well. He's going to try and move there around the outside of the down part of the Curva del Sol, trying to carry a little bit more momentum. There's a little bit of a weave there for Lopez, weaving back and forth down the straightaway, trying to break that draft as much as possible. Berger still looking very interested in Vieira, but as they dive down into the corner, they will be in single file order for about the top 5.
Yeah, pretty clean start for pretty much everyone involved. Of course, there was a little bit of a tangle, a little bit of contact in through the center S's for the first time. Slacker sort of in and around that sort of situation that went on back there. But all in all, I'm very impressed with that start here. Let's get ourselves a few laps under our belts before we can say it's been a completely clean event so far. But these guys, of course, at the very front will know what they're doing. They've got themselves, that very high iRating to make it to this top split. So these guys should be able to compete with each other very cleanly indeed as they head their way through the exit of that middle sector for the first time in this 30-minute event. Everyone's stringing out single file, at least in this first half of the field. Schlacker, then the pink race spot car, shall we say, is in a little bit of no man's land here, but should be able to lock onto the pack ahead of him and keep inside their tow.
Should indeed. Some big movers here right at the beginning. Kalen Martin, currently the driver that sits in 4th place right now, up 2 positions. Your biggest mover thus far, Matt Beard, who was able to gain 4 spots at the start of the race. It looks like that Koba Lopez able to pull away here a little bit. Vieira going defensive against Sergio Berger, just trying to see if there was anything to be done there. Berger not being dissuaded off the line, just keeping on the racing line that he prefers, trying to get down there as much as possible. Now is where's that big draft is going to come into play as they power off of the Curva del Sol, trying to see what it is. I'm not seeing Vieira go defensive at all here. I like that strategy out of him. Just try to keep running the race you are and pick up as much draft as possible from Lopez in front of him as they dive down now into the corner. Ooh, wide run there for Berger.
Yeah, careful with that one. Back end got a bit tail happy, caused him to go out into the runoff. There's side-by-side going on behind as well. Berger won't be able to find the inside for Ferradura, but Martin will, diving down the inside in that geodesic racing car. And, well, the position is again. So the number 4 car up into P4. Rodriguez, well, that was an extended battle from the exit of the Senna S's, and, well, Callum Martin was able to complete that coming in towards the middle sector. And, well, we see a big dive going on ahead because Berger's gone for the move here, DJ.
Oh, that was a very brave move indeed, coming into that tight right-hander, and it's not exactly going to play out. He's going to feed him to the outside. There is Helder Vieira, and be able to hold on to that second-place position. I think that's a lot of what we're going to be seeing over the course of this race, is drivers trying to make those overtakes at some unsuspecting areas. We normally anticipate going down into past the Retro Aposta and then into the Senna S, but being able to send a dive up to the inside of one of those middle sectors like you talked about, the twisty bits, that's really going to be an area to check out and watch out for.
Yeah, we saw Fernando Rodriguez actually gain the position back, and now Rodriguez has gone for a move on Sergio Berger and gets it done through the first turn. That was an impressive move. This is not done, though, because the number 3 can get back at him, coming through the Curva del Sol, that very fast left-hander. We're on the absolute limit of grip. Elbows out racing, boys, as we got Rodriguez pinching into the grass.
Trying to pinch him down to the grass. I'm not sure who's going to come out on top, as it looks like Berger is going to be able to hold on to that position for now. A great fight back there from the number 3 Brazilian. By the way, right now, we do have 6 Brazilians in the field. Little bit of contact there, as this battle's nowhere near done.
It's not. The bumpers are out, and, well, Berger has to try and hold everyone behind him at the moment. This is crazy, crazy stuff, as we see these guys just scrap for P3 at the moment. We did have a little bit of an error on our graphic there. Let's get the right one up. There we go. Sergio Berger holding off from Fernando Rodriguez and Callum Martin at the moment. And the more these guys fight, DJ, the more third parties can get themselves involved in this. And this is exactly what those 2 at the front want to see. Everyone else behind them dropping back. So Lopez and Vinícius Vieira can get on with their own race.
Exactly. They're able to go on and be fighting for themselves, but what this has really allowed happen here is Bruno Campos and Stefan Schlacker are able to pull up to the back of this, virtually making this a 5-car fight. Now there you can see them, not the best run there out of the junction for Campos, but he's going to try to push ahead there a little bit more to see if there's anything to be done. You see the multitude of lines there, drivers just trying to carry it as much as possible. Here we ride on board with the number 4 of Callum Martin, trying to get that 3rd place away. He's going to try to hold it out a little bit around the outside. Now that will switch back as they go down into the second part of the Senna S, and that geodesic car has got it. He has moved up, but as we've seen before, you've got to be careful. The Retro Aposta is a prime area to get an overtake redone, and that's exactly what Sergio Berger is trying to do. They're side by side powering down the straight. It's going to be a battle of the late breakers going down into the Descida del Lago. Who is going to have it? That's going to be Berger down to the inside, trying to hold it out a little bit, forces Martin wide. Can he hold it through the second part of the corner? Yes, he can!
Yeah, brilliant stuff, but as we continue on the battle up in towards Ferradura, Callum Martin still has that inside, which is the preferred line coming through that fast right-hander as you start to go up the incline a little bit. Another big braking zone coming up, and, well, Berger can't find a nose down the inside there. That would be a preferred move in terms of the response of holding the inside there, just catching the driver ahead of you off guard. But Callum Martin is all too wise about those sorts of moves. Of course, the geodesic racing car certainly making a big impact here today. Of course, hasn't quite been able to get away from these drivers behind. Berger's still giving him a good run, and a little bit tail happy through the corner there. You can't afford to be shrugging off too much speed, especially coming out of this corner where you have to maximize that run down the straight. And Rodriguez, well, he got a good launch off that corner. Let's see if he can do anything with it.
Let's see if he can indeed, as they get down now onto the loud pedal, down this long sweeping straightaway. That is going to be Berger able to make the move back into it, trying to see what they've got. 1, 2, 3, they line up into the corner. I'm not seeing a fight back here from Martin. He's going to stick it in line, maybe hope to give Berger a little taste of his own medicine as they go down the Retro Aposta. These 3 drivers, nothing separating them at all.
Absolutely nothing. Well, a little bit spread out compared to what they were last lap, though, as Berger has a little bit of breathing room on the way in towards the Interlagos. Breathing room is certainly a premium in racing like this, but of course that is very short-lived considering the potency of the draft here at Interlagos. So he's going to milk that for all it's worth. And, well, we've been seeing some fantastic battling, haven't we? I think we've certainly had the series deliver on its first race here on RaceSpotTV Friday primetime. We were giving an update at the front of the field, but it's mostly just Adikoba Lopez continuing to establish his dominance on this race. He's 2.2 seconds ahead of the number 2 car now, Vincius Vieira. So not all that much happening in the front. Everything's happening for P3 and back, though.
Exactly. Very tight running, and we're seeing them separate out a little bit. It looks like Stefan Schlacher not able to hold up to the back of these drivers as much as he would have hoped to. There you can see that bright pink machine, but he is under a little bit of an attack now from Bruno Campos. Remember, Campos was ahead of Schlacher. Schlacher able to get that move done, and now just holding on. Very wide run there in the back for Campos as he tries to hold out that line. I talked about those wide lines going down into the junction, trying to see what can happen there with those drivers. You want to try to carry as much momentum as you can onto this long straightaway without really going over the line. We look out the rear wing now of Stefan Schlacher's machine, that number 10 going bigger and bigger and bigger in the rear view mirror. Is he going to have a little bit of a pop out here to see if he can make a move down into the Senna S? He is not. He's going to stay in line, but he is very, very close. You saw him there trying to take a little bit of a wider line, but a big waggle from the tail, and that is going to lose Bruno Campos a bucket load of time.
Yeah, big slide. It does seem these cars are a little bit tail happy in certain situations. We can actually have a little bit of another look at that one from a bit of a better view, as why not? Let's just go on board with Bruno Campos to see what exactly was happening at the wheel on the way down through the Senna S. Of course, a tricky section of the circuit, gets all up over the curb on the first apex, and just snaps as he goes across the second.
Yeah, I think what he was trying to do there was just try to straight line the Senna S's as much as possible, and maybe took a little bit too much curbing on the right-handed section of that curve, and that could have been what sent him off a little bit. So now he's got about 1.5 seconds to try to gain back up to Stefan Schlacher to keep that battle alive. But one battle that has not gone away, that is the battle for P4. Kaelin Martin and Fernando Rodriguez really keeping this close together here. The number 4 and the number 6 machine, Rodriguez all behind him. You can see that tail getting a little bit happy as they work their way through the junction for Rodriguez. Definitely trying to keep everything together. Here comes a big power move to the outside, trying to carry that momentum is the number 6. Is so much so that he's actually out onto the grass, and he's got that move done and dusted.
Yeah, but we've seen over the course of this race, CJ, that even if you can get these overtakes done, there's ample opportunity for the overtaken to get their revenge. And Kaelin Martin has certainly been one of those cars that has been able to, at least in the opening portions of this race. We're nowhere even near the halfway point at this moment. We're sort of a third in, and we've had so much action already. And, well, it doesn't seem like it's going to calm down anytime soon, especially with these guys running as closely inside the slipstream as they are. Of course, things have been in doubt since the start of the race, and that is only natural. But these guys, they certainly know how to put on a good show. And Rodriguez, well, he's been sort of yo-yoing up and down the field somewhat inside this top 5.
Yeah, he certainly has. Not really able to hold on to a position, but Rodriguez, Martin, and Schlacher all up 1 spot on the day, so they will be happy with that. Schlacher is actually up 2 on the day. This continues to be our closest battle. Berger starting to pull a little bit of a gap. He lost a little bit of time on the last lap, about 0.2 of a second, but other than that, he's been able to pull away relatively well, and he's going to be loving to see Rodriguez and Martin fighting in his rearview mirror as, again, that rear end of these Brazilian stock cars getting very, very twitchy there for the number 6, doing a little bit of a drift coming down out of the Bico de Pato. You got to be careful with that. There is a lot of horsepower underneath these relatively simplistic machines as racing cars go.
Yeah, there is, and well, we touched on the start of the event. There's not much you can do to change the performance of these cars. You know, very limited setup-wise. So even if you do start to have a couple of problems like the balance being out of whack and you getting the back end out, there's not much you can do to try and solve that. Of course, you can mitigate it in some ways, but again. most of these drivers have very, very similar setups, I would have thought, given the limited options. So we'll have to see how it works out, especially towards the end of the race as the tyres start to become a little bit more of an issue, of course, especially with these guys sliding around the way they are. It puts too much excess heat in, and that could bite them at the end of 30 minutes.
Well, and speaking of excess heat, we haven't really gotten a chance to talk about it because the action out on track has been so electric, but it is currently 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 50 degrees Celsius out on track right now. That is very, very toasty. And so these drivers are really going to be having to watch out for overheating these tires.
Yeah, Interlagos is one of those circuits on iRacing that does tend to have very, very high both air and track temperatures. In fact, of course, you know, you can see why, in a sense, that of course Brazil it's a very hot country, very near the equator as well. So it's going to be hot pretty much all year round, and that's reflected here in iRacing with the 50-degree track temperatures. Yeah, you don't get that high of a track temp at many other racing circuits in the world, especially here on iRacing. So it's a bit of a concern sometimes. I remember an endurance race here that we broadcasted on RaceSpotTV where I think it got up to something like 55, 56 degrees Celsius on the track temperature, and it was crazy. And I've seen it, not in a broadcast, but I've seen it in other sessions get up to 60 and above. So it's it's pretty crazy, the track conditions here sometimes.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that is really not going to help with the grip levels that these drivers are going to be having as they continue to try working their way around here. They've been able to close the gap. Rodriguez and Martin at least sort of stabilize it right now to Sergio Berger directly ahead of them, but it doesn't look like Martin here has been able to pull up the attack. The one driver who is looking a little bit better, though, that is Stefan Schlacker there in the background. He's starting to reel in these drivers a little bit as he has dropped Bruno Campos after having that big fight that you saw earlier that was sort of mitigated by the fact that Campos had that slide coming through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't help things, and once something like a little mistake like that, a little slide, a car getting out of shape, that takes you out of your rhythm, and you might even take a lap or so to try and recover from something like that, you know, especially when you're trying to cool the tires down back to a reasonable temperature if it was a particularly big slide. So yeah, that's just how these races go, it seems. Schlacker continuing on very well. I think he realized, because he was talking to us before the broadcast, he realized that the fuel numbers in his setup wasn't quite right, apparently. So maybe he's found a little bit of extra speed as a result, because there was a little bit too much fuel in that car, and well, it's certainly working out for him at the moment. P6 in the number 8 car, and like you said, trying to close down in on those front runners. He gained about just shy of 1/10 of a second on Callum Martin that time around. Of course, it could be an issue of a death by 1,000 pinpricks at the moment, with Stefan Schlacker gaining that little bit of time every single lap. But it does matter if that's consistent.
It does indeed, and I want to jump us up to the front of this field because I'm not sure where, but Coba Lopez has made a mistake. The gap between himself and Vieira down to 0.8 of a second, and that is crucial here for Heldas Vincias Vieira because that means he is going to be in the draft range, and this battle is very much on.
Yep, it is. Didn't quite see where that might have been. But either way, it's a mistake that's lost Coba Lopez a good couple of seconds here. Of course, he had that buffer to use, so he doesn't lose the position as a result, but it makes him become under a little bit of unnecessary threat in this situation, especially as we get ourselves into the halfway stage of the race right now. So Coba Lopez might be a little bit busier at the end of this race than we first thought, at least with that initial run where he was able to maintain that gap. So that's certainly one to keep an eye on in this one. I'm having a look back through the field to see if there's any other close battles that we can pay a little bit of attention to. There's one going on for P13 at the moment between David Lopez and Augustin Cancelo. That's within, well, it was within half a second, but that's just extended above that now.
Yeah, and we're seeing this sort of yo-yo back and forth up between the field all the way around, and I think some of that is the style of racing it at Interlagos. You can really tune this car for one of two ways. You can tune it for speed down the long front straightaway or down the retro opposta, or you can tune it a little bit more for the twisty bits here in the middle, all the way up through everything. But problem is, obviously, as we've talked about, there aren't a lot of setup changes that you can make, and really and truly, the only things you're able really to adjust in these cars is just a little bit of the suspension geometry. And so it's not necessarily like you're running an open wheeler, but even then, just those little tweaks on the camber and the toe and a little bit of the anti-roll bars, you can make those changes and make the car work a little bit better for high speed or a little bit better for the corners.
Well, then again, you've got such a variety of corners here in Interlagos. It's you've got slow speed corners, you've got medium and all high speed corners, and all in pretty much equal abundance. So it's all about compromises, the setups around here, especially considering you have that long run both down the Retroposta and of course down towards turn number 1 as well. So it's basically a racetrack of compromises here. You have to try and figure out which is the best way to go. I'm seeing someone down on towards the pit lane. That is Agustin Cancelo, has decided to come down in. 10-second stop for him. We're not expecting a stop here, but it's Agustin Cancelo has decided to come down in for some reason.
Well, it could have just been a little bit of fuel mismanagement. We obviously talked to Stefan, and there were some problems with his initial fuel loads as he came into the race. So I'm not entirely sure why that was for Augustin, for him to come in, but the number 13 in and out. But that will ostensibly put him at the back of the field here at this point, down in 17th, as we focus back up on that battle for the lead. Goba Lopez able to re-pull that gap over Vieira right now. It's back up to about 1.5 seconds. I think, and I went back and I looked at the lap, Goba Lopez lost about 9/10 of a second a couple of laps back, and it wasn't really necessarily because of a massive incident. It was kind of the phrase, I want to steal the phrase you used earlier, Connery, it was death by 1,000 cuts. I think he just kind of got off rhythm a little bit, and that shook him through the entire midfield section.
Yeah, it's a very momentum-based sequence of corners, the middle sector here at Interlagos. Get caught offline on one corner, then all of a sudden you can't quite get into the next corner, then that affects the next corner. It's, you know, they come at you relentlessly, and if you can't get the first part of it right, then you sort of butcher the rest of them, shall we say. So, yeah, Lopez, of course, such an experienced driver, though, by far and away the highest iRating driver in this race. He's got over 8,000. The next highest, Vinicius Ferreira, is 4,929. So for Goba Lopez, he should be dominating this race, and he kind of is. He's continuing to extend the gap back to that number 2 car, so certainly still has pace in that car, so he hasn't overheated his tires or something like that causes him to drop the pace. So still looking good for the number 1 driver at the moment. Things have calmed down for the battle for the final podium position as well. Sergio Berger and Fernando Rodriguez maintaining their second gap between each other. Of course, we did see in the chat that Sergio Berger is not Sergio Berger, it's actually Pedro Berger. I do wish that a lot of the higher I-rated drivers, like Goba Lopez, would use their main accounts for these sorts of races, because if you're not willing to put your I-rating on the line, then what's the point?
Exactly. No risk, no reward. You've got to go for it. I certainly know that, you know, being a racer a little bit myself, that's half the fun of it, is trying to make sure you can get that I rating up. But that's neither here nor there. Pretty much all of these gaps really starting to separate out here a little bit as we continue to watch, ticking down under 10 minutes to go. And this is really the area of the race that I'm going to start to be curious in terms of tire wear. Who's been able to look after those tires the best? As we focus back in the field, this is David Lopez and Marty Novak running very, very close together. Lopez there in that neon machine right up ahead. Novak tucking behind in the slipstream. This could be a little bit of a move for the number 14 if he chooses to take it. He's going to back off a little bit going down through the Senna S. Similar strategy to what we've seen before. Try to get these first sequence of corners absolutely perfect and maybe get a power down on the Retroposta. I need to stop talking about drivers going through the Senna S because that's the second time that's happened today.
Yeah, it is. The curse of the commentator alive and well, I think, in that one, as Martin Novak getting the back end all sorts of out of shape coming through the exit of the Senna S's. Let's have another look at that one. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't like us to show this, but we are going to, as he's just going to get into the first one. It's the second one that seems to have been the problem here for these drivers. It's been a big task to try and get that one right, and it seems like some drivers still haven't solved it.
No, indeed, some drivers just haven't gotten it right, and it is a deceptively tricky corner as you go downhill there, and we saw it earlier from Bruno Campos as well, swinging the car a little bit tighter on the exit of the first curve, and then bringing it across the track. And because you have so much lateral load pushing against the tires going through that area, if you take just a little bit too much curbing there, it can just throw that rear end out of whack, and the rear tires will just absolutely scream out in agony and not take any more.
They absolutely will. And, well, we are getting into the latter portions of the race now, so if there are any tyre wear-related issues, they'll start to materialize at this point. I'm not seeing anyone have any major issues for the moment. Everything sort of, in terms of the last lap times, sort of lines up quite well in regards to their actual ranking out there on circuit. So, shouldn't be, touch wood, shouldn't be too many surprises unless I have my own curse of the commentator moment there, DJ. But everything sort of kind of running to the checkered flag at the moment. I'm having a look to see what the closest battle is out on circuit at the moment. And, well, it'll be still this battle for P4 between Fernando Rodriguez and Callan Martin. But we've seen that extend over the last couple of laps as well. So unlikely to contract.
Yeah, unlikely to contract a little bit. These drivers just... it looks like they're settling into the race a little bit more, and I wouldn't be surprised here in maybe the last 2 minutes or so, as that was a very hairy moment for the number 6 of Rodriguez. You can see that car getting all kinds of sideways going down into the junction. What I was going to say, though, is that I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple of these drivers maybe nursing the car a little bit in these final stages to just try to bring it home a little bit and preserve the tires. We could see a flurry of action start to fire off. Yeah, looks like our leader here, Cobo Lopez, having another problem, losing about a full second on that last lap. And again, I was watching him, just a death by 1,000 cuts, losing the rhythm of that infield section, and that costing him massively.
So now we're getting towards, well, we're inside the final 6 minutes of this race. On previous occasions when Helder Vincius Vieira has been in this slipstream, he sort of lost it again, and Adacobo Lopez has had the clear air pace to try and get away. But we know Vieira is similarly quick on a good day, especially compared with the qualifying times that we saw, just a few thousandths of a second between them. So don't count Vieira out here. Still going to be a big old task to try and pass a driver that's almost got double his high rating, even though he's the number 2 driver. But we should be setting up for a good battle if this continues to draw itself in. And remember, I'm seeing a little bit further down the road a bit of lap traffic that could affect this one at the end of 5 minutes.
Connor, you read my mind. That is Julian Alanas. They're up ahead of him in 18th position, so that could be a little bit of a wrench in the works here as we continue to work our way around the Vincius Vieira, trying to close in the gap, holding at about 9/10 of a second, but it just looks like Cobo Lopez got an excellent jump there off at the junction, able to extend that gap upwards of, oh my goodness, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 seconds. There's the 17. That is Lanas getting off to the side there, letting these two drivers go on by. Some good sportsmanship there. CS Vieira just looking like he doesn't get the best run out of that final corner, and it's really coming back to bite him.
Yeah, it is. And, well, with how much he was hemorrhaging time there, coming down the pit straight, you have to wonder, at least my first idea in my head, that would be, is he like fuel saving or something? He shouldn't be going that slowly coming down the straight, but it seems like things have sort of stabilized out for him. But it seems like Adacobo Lopez, whenever he gets himself into a sticky situation, he has that extra couple of tenths of a second in the bag that he can just pull out and make sure that no one can lock onto the back of his rear bumper. So Cobo Lopez, certainly, I would guess, like in normal running in this race, he's running at about 90%, and he has another 10% he can delve into if he needs.
Yeah, most certainly. It just looks like he is able to really, really dig down and get it, doing a quick check back in on our other close battle out on track between Sergio Berger and Rodriguez right now. Rodriguez trying to pull the gap in from about 1.2 seconds as of right now, but Berger just doing a fantastic job to be able to keep that car at bay. And you can really see there as he dives into Bico de Pato just how slidey the rear ends of these cars are getting as these tires start to overheat a little bit more, get a little bit more cooked. They these cars looking like they're becoming a real handful here in the closing stages.
You can see the track conditions. Track temperature's actually climbed up a little bit, 51 degrees Celsius now on the circuit. A little bit of a high wind as well, 19 kilometers an hour. It's not too shabby. So could also be affecting the aero here. Maybe not so much in these cars, but there is a slight effect. As what's happened again at the front? Copa Lopez must have made another mistake.
He just didn't get that mega run out of the junction, it looks like, and that allowed for Vincius Vieira to be able to close into him. They are the closest they've really been since the drop of the green flag, and there you can see Copa Lopez doing a little bit of weaving, trying to break that draft of Vincius Vieira, diving down now into the Descida do Lago, trying to see if he can keep that close behind. This is where overtaking is going to be an absolute premium as they make their way up the hill through Ferradura. I don't think we're going to see a dive here out of that number 2 machine, but this is certainly going to be close. They are only 2 laps to go here at Interlagos.
Oh, and almost making contact with the rear, heading their way through this tight and twisty middle sector. Vincius Vieira is really driving the socks off of that car. You can see his desire to try and get himself up into the race lead, something that's been pretty far away from him from the vast majority of this race, but little errors here and there have really cost Ade Copa Lopez and put himself in this situation where he has to now defend with coming up to a lap to go.
Exactly, Barney the flagman readying the white flag there, and it looks like that mega launch that we've seen Copa Lopez get off of the junction about every 3rd lap or so coming into effect here. He's able to pull that gap up to about a second as they go through there. It just looks like Vincius Vieira hemorrhaging time off of the junction. I'm not sure what causes that, but that shouldn't be that massive of a loss, especially in being able to be tucked up behind in the draft. But one way or the other, Copa Lopez now has a healthy 1.2 second advantage over his biggest rival, and he'll be able to breathe a little bit easier here on this final lap.
Yeah, he couldn't afford to make the same mistake out of Yunsao and through and across the start-finish line as he did last lap and hemorrhage all that time back to that number 2 car. So Copa Lopez, as long as he keeps it on the grey stuff and again maximizes that exit out of the final corner, should be able to come across the line and take the race win here. But Vincius Vieira is there, and in case Copa Lopez makes another error under the pressure, certainly they're ready to take the top step of the podium. Should he get the opportunity. We had a little bit of fighting further behind as well. In and amongst all of that happening, it sort of fizzled out a little bit now. Tateyama and Freckleton were going at it, and Freckleton, well, he's done pretty well to recover up to a P10, considering his issues a little bit earlier on in the race. And I say a little bit earlier on in the race, before the race even started, that he was having problems, but he's been able to recover for a top 10 finish potentially.
Yeah, that's a very impressive drive there from Dylan Lopez, from Dylan Freckleton rather, but we focus back on Lopez here. Ade Copa Lopez coming out of the junction for the final time, has the gap at about 1.1 seconds right now. Didn't get that mega launch that he would have hoped for, but I think he's still going to have enough to be able to pull away here as they work their way by the Subida dos Boxes, coming down the straight for the final time. Barney the flagman waving the checkered flag in the air, and Copa Lopez will take victory here at Interlagos. Helder Vincius Vieira will take 2nd place behind him, and we've got to wait a minute as there's Sergio Berger will cross the line to round out your podium positions.
There he is. He got a bit close at the start-finish line there. I saw Vincius Vieira close up the gap, but the thing is, I think he was hoping one more lap, just one more lap, and maybe I could have potentially made it, because he did get a better run out of the final corner than Ade Copa Lopez was able to manage. Here's the onboard with Freckleton with a very ruined front end, somehow relatively competitive in the straight line. He'll come across the line in P10. He was closing up and attempting to challenge Tateyama at the very end there. In terms of the drivers further towards the back, we do have a battle for point 14 going on. Marty Novak versus Francisco Javier Lanas Roman in the number 9 car.
Indeed, and it looks like he's able to get a good little jump there to be able to pull away. Marty Lopez is as they go around, and Novak able to hold on to that position as they cross over the line.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the battle's further down the order, over and done with. But the man of the moment, of course, there he is. Ade Copa Lopez taking the first race win of the season here in the Stock Car Brasil Championship on iRacing. Of course, it's the official session, so if you do have enough iRating on these Friday nights, then you can certainly come and join us and show us what you are made of. But it's going to take quite a lot to beat Adecopa Lopez, our common driver in Friday Night Primetime speak. It seems like he's been in every single one of these.
Yeah, he certainly does. He just has a knack for finding the series and getting himself there. But an absolutely dominant performance from Coba Lopez here today, using all of the tools perfectly effectively, using the push to pass in these cars to be able to get that gap and those mega launches out of the junction. A dominant performance here from the number one. And well, if the rest of the season is going to be anything like this, Connery, I, for one, can't wait to see what else we have in store.
Absolutely, as we get ourselves the race results up there right now, you can see Adecopa Lopez taking the race win by, it was only 2.5 tenths of a second at the end there, so it was a little bit closer, coming right towards the line there. But just take us through the rest of it, DJ. This is not my job.
Well, as you said there, Adecopa Lopez able to take P1, followed by Helder Vincius Vieira, Sergio Berger in P3, rounding out your podium with Fernando Rodriguez and Kalen Martin in P5. Stefan Schlacker was able to come home in P6, followed by Bruno Campos with Guilherme Morales in P8 and Tito Tatiyama in 9th. Dylan Freckleton on a great recovery drive there to round out your top 10. Mario Marco was in P11, followed by Charles-Eric Lemenen in P12. David Lopez was in 13, with Marty Novak able to hold off Francisco Javier Leonis Roman for 14th, Leonis Roman in 15th. Ricardo Luis Piera was 16th, followed by Augustin Cancelo. Julian Lanas was 18th, followed by Matt Beard in 19th to round out your 19-car grid. Matt Beard unable to finish the day, and Lanas a lap down. So a great race out there today. Connery, any final thoughts here on the first race of what is going to be a great season here in Friday Night Primetime?
Well, it's, I guess we couldn't have really asked for much more, especially in the opening portions of that race where we saw drivers go absolutely hell for leather, is a phrase that we use in the UK, up against each other and leaning on each other. That was some fantastic racing, some very respectful racing as well. I didn't see too much of the sort of chrome horn coming out, to use an American term for once, DJ. But but yeah, it was fantastic stuff out there. I can't wait to see what the rest of the season holds here in this one. As we can take another look at the schedule if we want here. Of course, we got this race done at Interlagos. This is not the first time this is not the last time, excuse me, that we'll actually go to Interlagos over the course of this season. We'll come back here on the 4th of June for the grand finale, round number 12. But next round, we head to the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Now, that's going to be a bit of a different predicament.
Yes, it is. I think that is going to be a race where we see a lot of drafting take place, as is, frankly, the next 4 rounds with Spa and the Hockenheim. Mount Panorama is going to be one to watch out for. I'm also looking for the 11th round of this race. Winton on the national circuit, a new circuit here to iRacing, going to be absolutely incredible. And this has got to be one of the more diverse and best schedules that I have seen.
Yeah, it is, and I'm certainly looking forward to Winton as well. It's not a circuit that I am typically familiar with, so that's going to be an interesting one. Of course, we go to Knock Hill in the middle of the season, which is a very short, very fast and furious circuit. So it'll be interesting to see how these cars deal with that situation. But again, it's a very good calendar, very diverse calendar, like you said, DJ. We go to Spa-Francorchamps, which is probably going to be one of the higher strength of fields over the course of this race. It does tend to, of the season, it does tend to be that in most series. We've got Mount Panorama Bathurst around number 5. That is going to be a huge challenge for these drivers, because these guys were getting the back end out here at Interlagos. You can't really afford to push wide or have any issues on the mountain at Bathurst, otherwise you're going to hit a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Very tricky. And the same is really, frankly, true for the Circus de Gilles Villeneuve, as it's going to be one also looking at Knock Hill as a tight, twisty little circuit, classic home of British touring car racing. That'll be fantastic. Really good tracks coming up on this schedule. But as for today, it is Adecopa Lopez able to take victory away from Helder Vincius Vieira and Sergio Berger to round out your podium. That's about all the time we have for this race here today. On behalf of Connery Maddock and myself, DJ Clark, we would like to thank you for tuning in to RaceSpot's coverage of Friday Night Primetime. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.